Hi, everybody. This is Dianne Reeves, and you're listening to In Love with Jazz with Roger Chung.
My grandma said 歡迎大家再次收聽 D100 爵士鍾情 In Love with Jazz， 我係你哋嘅主持人鍾一諾 Roger Chung。今集咧非常之精彩，係呢一個節目啊，爵士鍾情呢一個節目其中一個歷史上裏邊嘅一個 highlight 嚟嘅，因為我哋今集咧將會訪問到啱啱我哋聽過呢隻歌嘅原唱者 Dianne Reeves。哇！Dianne Reeves 接受我訪問，真係一個非常之大嘅榮幸啊！咁啊 ，Dianne Reeves 啦，大家都知道啦，咁啊一個非常之重要嘅喺呢一個年代嘅爵士嘅歌唱家啊，咁啊絕對係 Sarah Vaughan 啊、Ella Fitzgerald 嘅呢一個傳承佢哋嘅 spirit， 同埋係佢哋嘅接班人啊，應該要咁講添係。咁啊，由80年代開始一路唱到今時今日啊，佢嘅影響力非常之大。啱啱我哋聽過呢一隻咧，係佢嘅一隻hit song 嚟嘅，當陣時係 Better Days 啊，收錄喺1987年。當陣時佢啱啱咧就去即係開始係紅起來啦。咁啊 George Duke 啦，佢嘅 cousin 啊，去幫佢去produce 佢嘅呢一張 Blue Note 嘅 records， 不過一隻好有蘇寧感覺嘅一張唱片嚟嘅。咁啊 Better Days 啱啱聽過呢一隻歌係非常之犀利，好多猛人幫佢呢隻碟啦嚇。咁啊有 George Duke 自己本人啦，當然有 Herbie Hancock 啊、Stanley Clarke 啊等等Anthony Williams 啊、Paolo Roberto da Costa 啊、Freddie Hubbard 啊等等啊，所以如果咧大家對佢早期嘅 career 有興趣咧，必定要聽呢一隻 Dianne Reeves。咁但係咧事不宜遲，我哋咧今集嘅爵士鍾情咧揾到佢上嚟咧，有好多嘢同佢講啊，真係。咁啊第一節嘅 interview 啦嚇，因為我同佢錄嘅時候咧係一 take 過啊冇停過咁樣去錄嘅，所以咧第一段嘅 interview 我就問佢關於佢嚟緊會嚟到香港呢一個西九文化區戲曲中心嗰度咧就會上演一場11月10號啊，大家千祈唔好走嚇！11月10號星期一8點鐘上演一場 Dianne Reeves 嘅 live 啊，叫做2025年嘅 Jazz Highlight 啊，我哋呢個 West Kowloon Performing Arts present 嘅呢一場非常之精彩，一定係非常之精彩嘅表演啊！咁佢帶咗佢自己隊 band 嚟啦，除咗佢自己 on vocals 之外，有 John Beasley on piano，guitar 嘅有 Romero Lubambo 哇，來自巴西嘅仲有 on bass 係 Ruben Rogers， 同埋 drums 係 Terrion Goley， 全部都係頂尖之中嘅頂尖嘅猛人嚟到香港。咁我覺得大家如果唔知道佢嚟咧，而家聽到必須要即刻去買飛。如果知道佢嚟聽埋呢個 interview， 就會更加雀躍，更加期待啦。因為佢喺以下落嚟嘅 interview 咧講咗好多好正嘅 story 俾我哋聽。咁我哋不如事不宜遲，我哋聽下第一段佢講下呢一隊 band 同埋佢嚟緊嘅呢一場 show 嘅一啲嘅details 同大家分享下，同埋點樣去認識下呢一啲人，佢都會有少少嘅分享。不如我哋聽下 Dianne Reeves with Roger Chung。Wow, I have to say that it is a huge honor for me to have a legendary jazz diva, one of the most influential jazz vocalists of our time, Dianne Reeves, on my show today. Welcome, Dianne.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here with you, Roger.
It's just a huge honor, and I have to thank technology because I am in Hong Kong right now.
Yes.
And you're in Denver, right?
Yes, I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah. At your house, okay. And and we're talking.
Yeah. I love that
between us.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons that we're talking is because Hong Kong will be welcoming you again on November 10th, 2025, this year, Monday, at the new West Kowloon Shishu Center. And
Yes.
we're just excited to have you with us.
I'm excited to be there. You know, it's been a while since I've been to Hong Kong, but every time I come, I always have a good time. So I'm excited about this.
So for the record, right, I was trying to study the history of jazz artists being in Hong Kong, performing in Hong Kong a little bit. Mm-hmm. Am I right that the first time you came over here was in 1981 with Sergio Mendes? Is that
You are correct. That is correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
1981, I wasn't even born yet, by the way.
Okay. Love it.
And then was it the second time was 2005 at the Sha Tin Town Hall?
Yes.
And you came with your own band, right?
Yes. Yeah. And by the time I had elevated and had my own band.
And unfortunately, I also missed that because I was not in Hong Kong during that time. I was still in the US.
Oh, okay.
And now I'm in Hong Kong. I cannot miss this one.
No, please.
Yes.
It's really, I love my band. I love what we do. But more than anything, everybody's so excited to be on stage,
And can you tell us a little bit about your band that you're going to bring over this time?
Yeah, I have on piano a longtime friend. Actually, he was in Hong Kong with me when I was with Sergio. He's the one that actually turned me on to the Sergio gig, and that's John Beasley.
Wow.
And John is an extraordinary, musician. And we've been friends for years. So John Beasley on piano, Reuben Rogers is on bass. And Reuben and I have been working together. Reuben, when I started working with Reuben, he had just left Joshua Redmond's band. And I was waiting with open arms, like, come join me. And so Reuben Rogers, Terry Gully on drums, who I absolutely love because he's so creative and so wonderful. And we've been working a long time. And then one of my great friends, I call him my brother from another mother, Homero Lubambo from Brazil. And we've been together since the mid-90s. So it's a real solid band that I like to call my family.
Wow. It's an all-star band.
Yes.
Wow. I'm dying to see this. This is going to be amazing. And when I was saying that you're one of the most influential jazz vocalists, it's not an overstatement. It is true. A lot of people, when you came on the scene, when I was very little when you came on the scene. I wasn't even born yet, but when I was reading all these history, because I actually teach jazz history at university.
Oh, wonderful.
And sometimes we would talk about carrying on the torch, right, from Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan, and I always see that you really carry that torch forward, and and then evolving into something of your own.
Absolutely.
And I was just telling my wife just now, you're doing a 12:30 a.m. interview with who? I said, well, a jazz legend that is actually on our because I have this jazz tree poster with you on it at the very top.
Oh, I know that poster.
Do you know that poster?
Yeah.
So I was like, that is the one I'm interviewing tonight.
Thank you.
It's a huge, really, and this is going to be amazing. Tell us a little bit about, because we mentioned Sergio. Tell us a little bit about Sergio Mendes.
It was really interesting because at the time I was living in Los Angeles, and we had a band, and the two rotating pianists for the band were John Beasley and my very dear friend Billy Childs.
Wow.
And Larry Klein, of course, who's a big producer, and he was on bass, and we all kind of came up together.
All my favorite people.
Yeah. And we were experimenting. I think At the time, Billy was working with Freddie Hubbard, and I think Larry was too at that time. And he later on went to work with Carmen McRae. But anyway, so we were trying to find ourselves, you know,
Right.
and but we also needed money, and we were hungry for experience. So John came to me and said, you know, Sergio Mendes is looking for a singer, and my introduction to Brazilian music came through my cousin George Duke, who
Right.
produced Airto and Flora Purim, Airto Moreno and Flora Purim. And then, of course, you know, listening to Wayne Shorter's Native Dancer and Sarah Vaughan, you know, actually, you know, did a crazy mixed up album before she even did the one that Sergio produced. So, you know, there was all of these, and Ella as well. So you know, and of course we knew who Joe Beam was and all that. So that was my exposure to the music. However, I only knew two songs, and that was Wave and the girl from Ipanema. So when he set up, John has set up a interview, I mean, for me with, oh gosh, excuse me, with Sergio. And so I went in, and Sergio said, do you know any Brazilian songs? And I told him those two songs. And so I sang them. He said, okay. He said, do you know anything else? Well, on the album that Flor Purim did, she did a song called How Insensitive in Portuguese, Ai Insensatez. And I learned it off of the record. And there's something that happens when you learn something off the record because you really don't know if you're saying it right, you know? But I felt really good, and I listened to the record over and over. And mind you, this was at a time, this is before you were born. It wasn't on cassette, it was an album. So you had to pick the needle up and keep going over and over. And yes, okay, so you get my drift. So I go in this audition, and I sing this song. You know, I told him the key, and he plays it, and he's sitting there, and his shoulders are just going up and down, and his head is down like this, and he's shaking his head, and he said,
In satisfaction.
Yes. And he looked at me and he said, I don't know what you just said, but you have the gig. And it was the beginning of, you know, if you listen to all my records, there's some aspect of Brazil on every record that I've ever recorded. And it was the beginning of my love affair for this music, because through Sergio, he was very generous in, you know, sharing the great people, the great artists of Brazil. So I ended up meeting all of these amazing Brazilian musicians, some that I worked with. I mean, it was just the beginning of my finding my other home, my second home. And so, you know, Brazilian music has always played a very important role in my sound.
And you know, we can definitely hear it from almost every single album, as you said. So I think I remember hearing one of your tracks. It's a live, I think it's Triste.
Yeah.
That you were actually talking about Sergio Mendes. That's actually how I learned about it.
Okay.
You know, not only from text, but you know, you were actually telling a story about Sergio. So he's probably the first person that you ever toured with. Is that correct?
That was my first tour in life. Yes.
Wow. 啱啱嘅呢一段對話咧非常精彩，因為咧佢話俾我哋聽好多我哋未必知道嘅一啲嘅往事啊。咁啊，我頭先就問佢係咪1981年嘅時候你已經嚟咗香港第一次表演，同 Sergio Mendes 呢個 Brazilian 嘅 legend 嚇 Sergio Mendes， 佢就話係原來咧佢第一個國際嘅 tour 係跟 Sergio Mendes 一齊去玩嘅。嗰陣時1981年我就話俾佢聽我未出世嗰陣時，但係原來咧佢話俾我聽，今次佢帶嚟香港嘅 on piano 嘅 John Beasley 咧，就係去介紹 Dianne Reeves 去認識 Sergio Mendes， 同埋頭先我哋聽到佢 audition 嘅時候，佢以為自己唱緊Portuguese， 但係 Sergio Mendes 覺得佢唔係，不過咧佢都好中意佢嘅演繹，所以佢最後都係 hire 咗佢嘅呢一啲嘅往事，非常之正嘅趣事啦。咁我就話俾你聽，其實我認識佢同 Sergio Mendes 嘅一啲嘅往事咧，係因為有一隻歌啊，叫做 Triste， 裏邊咧佢就有講到呢一段少少嘅古仔嘅，其實咁亦都咧喺呢度咧，亦都 feature 呢一個以後我哋會聽到嘅版本嘅 Triste 咧，係 live 闊版本 featuring 佢嘅好拍檔 Romero Lubambo， 而 Romero Lubambo 亦都會今次嚟到香港一齊嚟表演嘅喎嚇，咁所以咧事不宜遲，我哋不如聽下呢個版本嘅 Dianne Reeves featuring Romero Lubambo 嘅 Triste。
I think my first major experience of touring was with Sergio Mendes, and it was wonderful. It was an experience that really inspired my life. I was introduced to a lot of wonderful music. I'd like to take you on that journey with me right now. And here to take us on that journey is my good friend Romero Lubambo from Rio de Janeiro. Sad is to live in solitude, far from your tranquil attitude. Sad is to know that no one ever can live in a dream that never will be, will never be. Dreamer awake, wake up and see your beauty is an aeroplane, so high that I can't stand the strain. A heart that stops when you pass by, only to cause me pain. Sad is to live in solitude. Shut up, la pilora diva, bombodero, lendero, bobedom, bam, veva, la 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 la, ubiri buru biri duru biru la da londo bambara ile de baya bombo baya da da da, bira bodinda morori bom beverulo la. Solitude, far from your tranquil attitude. Sad is to know that no one ever can live in a dream that never will be, will never be. Dreamer awake, wake up and see your love is like an aeroplane, so high that I can stand the strain. A heart that stops when you pass by, only to cause me pain. Sad is to live in solitude. Ambam somebody long dong at the chong dong dan da de dong bong arabadu adi dong ba long bo be de ba da ho ba du ya di ba bo people
我哋聽完呢隻 Triste 咁講到呢個 Dianne Reeves 同埋 Sergio Mendes 嘅一啲嘅往事啦。聽完呢一隻歌之後咧，我哋咧翻到嚟第二段嘅 interview 咧，我就問佢關於比起 Sergio Mendes 再早啲出現喺佢嘅生命當中嘅 Clark Terry。哇，原來咧都係好多趣事嘅啦。事不宜遲，我哋先聽翻嚟，我再話翻俾大家聽，我哋傾咗啲乜嘢。I mean, if I search your name and then Clark Terry would also come up.
Yes.
So did Clark Terry...
I'll say that Sergio was my first international exposure. Yes. So Clark, I met when I was in high school. And he would do, Clark was somebody who was very astute at finding and then developing talent. I mean, so many people have come through his band. Ingrid Jensen was through his band. Branford Marcel. So many people have come through Clark. Of course, Miles didn't play with him, but he came through him, Right. But he always loved being able to share and develop and allow this music to continue to, evolve. And so when he would do gigs that were in close proximity to where I lived, he would always bring me out, and they would be with the most incredible musicians.
Yeah.
It would be with, like Jimmy Rolls, who played for Billie Holiday, or Sir Roland Hanna, who was an amazing pianist, and then it could be George Duvivier or Major Holly on bass. I mean, all jazz masters. And I always call my experience with Clark my first living school, because I learned the music on stage with him.
How did I probably have told this story a million times, but for our Hong Kong audience, can you tell us, how did he kind of discover you at the first place?
Well, at the time I was with the big band at my high school, and we had a citywide competition, and our band won. And the what you got to do was go to what was then called the National Association of Jazz Educators Convention. And it was like people from ended up being international jazz, but then it was the national. And so we went to Chicago, and I was there with the big band, and he was one of the adjudicators. He was and a clinician. He was also a clinician, and he was going around listening to all the different bands, because we were in a much bigger competition now. Mm-hmm. And he heard me. And said, "Oh my goodness." No, yeah, he heard me, and he's like, "Oh my goodness." So he asked me to give him my information, and I did, and he gave me his phone number, and
Wow.
And we're not talking cell phones. And so he was so excited. He kept calling, and he wanted me to do a demo to send to CBS Records, to John Hammond, who I didn't know who that was, but
John Hammond.
Yes, of course, you know who the great John Hammond. Yes. And so I didn't know anything. So my uncle, I have musicians in my family. My uncle was a classical bassist, but he was also a great jazz bassist. And so I told him, I said, "Uncle Charles," I said, there's this
Charles
man.
Burrell, you're talking about.
Charles Burrell, yes. I said, "There's this man that keeps like he wants me to do things. He's a trumpet player. Maybe you know him. And then he said, well, what's his name? And I said, Clark Terry. And he just fell out laughing. And he said, we were in the Navy band together. And there are pictures of them in the Navy band.
Wow.
And so they go back. And so now everything is he's like, oh man, that's your niece, and all that kind of stuff. So I ended up doing all of these performances with Clark over the years, and it was extraordinary. I mean, he introduced me to Louis Bellson, so that when I moved to Los Angeles after I graduated high school, I went to college and I ended up going to Los Angeles. And I got in touch with these people, and I started working with Louis Bellson and then, musicians in the city. And I was doing everything, Clark was really important in my life.
Extremely. And
extremely.
I think he's an influence of a lot of people too. So
yeah, he is.
哇！真係好精彩啊個故仔係嘛？咁啊，我就問到佢關於 Clark Terry 點樣去發掘佢出嚟嘅咧？原來因為當陣時佢 high school 嗰度贏咗一個 competition， 咁啊 Clark Terry 做緊一啲叫做 clinic session 咧，即係其實係如果喺音樂嗰度嘅 clinic 咧，就係去帶一啲 workshop 啊，去改正人哋點樣去吹嘢啊、彈嘢啊。或者發掘一啲嘅新嘅人才啦，咁佢就發現咗 Dianne Reeves 就猛咁打俾佢喎，咁 Dianne Reeves 咧就話佢自己都唔知道其實唔係好認識佢嘅啫喎，咁佢就話俾佢 uncle 聽啦，咁啊呢個 Charles Burrell 咧就係一個非常有名嘅 classical 裏邊嘅 bass 手，但係亦都玩 jazz 嘅，咁啊話俾佢聽呢一件事之後，佢個 uncle 就笑到碌地啦。咁啊有兩個原因嘅，其實笑碌地第一個原因咧就係因為 Clark Terry 非常非常之出名啊，係 jazz 喺呢個爵士界裏邊。第二個原因就係原來咧佢哋曾幾何時亦都喺呢個美國嘅海軍咧一齊去玩過 band 嘅嚇，咁所以係一個好有趣嘅一個 story， 所以啦原來 Dianne Reeves 係被呢一個咁犀利嘅Clark Terry 去發掘咗出嚟，咁啊當然佢加上個 uncle 非常之 encourage 佢去即係同 Clark Terry 學嘢啦，咁就開始展開咗佢嘅歌唱同埋音樂嘅人生啊，所以喺度咧我揀咗隻歌咧係 feature 佢嘅 uncle 都有份嘅喎吹 trumpet 同埋唱埋歌添，咁啊呢一隻歌叫做哈，喺度送俾大家。 係咪好滑稽嘅一隻歌咧？哈！Dianne Reeves feature Clark Terry 嘅呢一隻歌喺呢度咧，亦都向 Clark Terry 去致敬啦。咁聽完呢一隻歌之後咧，我就問佢關於即係 Charles Burrell George Duke 佢嘅 cousin 啦即係同佢哋一齊長大，其實係一樣咩嘅回事？因為呢一啲都係一啲非常之重要嘅喺樂壇裏邊喺爵士界又好 classical 界又好，非常之重要嘅一啲人對佢嚟講，咁所以好想咧，我就聽下佢點樣去形容同呢一啲咁重要嘅人一齊去長大係點樣嘅究竟喺一個咁樣嘅氛圍，一個咁樣嘅音樂嘅環境長大係一件咩回事咧？不如我哋聽下 Dianne Reeves 點樣講佢嘅童年嘅音樂嘅氛圍同埋環境。And you mentioned, your uncle Charles and George Duke. How is it like growing up with these giants in your family? They're acceptable to you, right?
The thing is, I grew up in this multi-generational household, which was, I think every child should have that experience, because I was seeing the evolution of things in real time, not even realizing it,
Right.
And, but more than anything in the very profession that I would choose, for myself. And I had a great aunt that I had two of my grandmother's sisters and a brother. They were musicians, and one of them was a part of vaudeville. I mean, they could tell all kind of stories. It was just, you just see, how this, and the other thing is, if they weren't musicians, they played great music, So with this generation, my sister's 10 years older than me, and I thought her taste was like more, evolved, and I could, I felt, and I would listen to the music that she listened to, and, and then my mother had her music, and my father was a great jazz head. He loved jazz. So it was always there. And then at the same time, I'm listening to Motown and, coming up with all of that. All of that was in my world, and, it just having George and my uncle was very important to George in his, beginning, and at the same time, and then later on with me. So he was our teacher. So, our first teacher was our relative, our uncle, and, our uncle. So that was great.
That's amazing. So what kind of sophisticated music that your sister used to listen to?
Well, she was listening to, like people like Weather Report, and she had Faces she had George Duke's more, avant-garde music. And she was listening to, and but she also liked people like Isaac Hayes, and she just it played all over the so while I was listening to the Isley Brothers and the Temptations, and she loved all of them, but then she had this other music that was going on, and I was like, oh wow. And I had never heard of Diodato. Through my sister was how I found Amir Diodato, and there was just all of this music that people 10 years older than me were listening to.
Wow.
And you probably can't relate to this, but there used to be this scene where, like people would drink Mateus wine, and Mateus is in a green bottle, and a little long neck, and in a kind of oblong shaped green bottle with a picture of Italian town or something on it. And it was really fabulous. But when you finished the bottle, you put a candle in it and let the wax drip down, and it was just very bohemian. And I just thought all of that and listening to this music was very cool.
Wow, that's tell telling me the story. I mean, this is really great. And I also learned that you actually were classically trained too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was because of my uncle. He thought that I should really understand my voice, and so he put me in touch with this wonderful teacher very, very early on. And I studied, and she knew that classical music was not where I was going to go. But she thought in order for my voice to have longevity, I needed to really understand and develop how it works. And then she also it was really interesting because she helped me to understand that there were certain kinds of exercises that I would have to create for myself because, you know, I was going to be a jazz singer and, maybe singing over electric music as well as acoustic music and, just being able to be aware of all of these things. Much later on, I ended up with a great teacher named Joan Lader, who was really important to me. And she was in New York, and I met her in the late 80s, and she really made a difference for me because she helped me understand, that traveling and all the things that I was dealing with, just the anxiety of trying to build everything,
Right.
that one must have peace in their body in order to sing, you know. And so she really helped me turn around and work to find and have those things.
So,
But yeah, I had great teachers.
yeah, and so how would you say if you never had, the classical training, how would that be different for you? How would you approach?
I think that one of the things that while I have the classical training, I also always paid attention to the way other vocalists use their voices that I loved. And we're talking about from Barbra Streisand on down, Ella, I was always listening to their voices to find how they had a certain sound that sounded like they could get to the notes easily. And so, along with my classical training, I was also, very much into that. And I loved, like, one of the who was not a vocalist that really taught me a lot was Miles, because he could hold these long tones with no vibrato, and there was something about them that sounded very vulnerable and and tender and and there was something about them that sounded like wonderment, like they could pierce through space, and so I loved the sound that he had. And then when I listened to Native Dancer, he was a singer that did that, which was Milton.
Yes.
So Milton Nascimento was singing like that, and and here's it coming out of his voice, and it's just this really angelic kind of, I always say, fragile, vulnerable, tender place that, was like in awe of the universe. It just was really beautiful. So I would listen to singers in that way,
And that's amazing. I mean, and you mentioned Miles. I mean, the one adjective that I was going to use about, for his long tone is cool, but then you said so much more, and that's true. And,
yeah.
Because I sometimes I feel that Miles is lauded for a lot of other things, being very creative and all that. But not a lot of people talk about, his playing all that much. And, so that is really nice, I think.
Well, the other thing that I loved about both a lot of the different ones is their use of space. That space is part of the music, So going back to Milton, Miles, then, fast forward to, people like Shirley Horn, that had this ability to use space to really allow for the idea that they just sang to echo and continue on. They had and make people just go, wow, did I just hear that? And process it and then hear it until you get to the next thing, and that I love.
And talking about space, I was listening to, I think it was George Duke, your cousin, and you playing Misty. It's a live recording. Wow, it's just amazing.
Thank you.
The sense
George could do anything. That was another thing. He was extraordinary because he could do anything.
Yeah.
Any kind of music.
It's true.
He was so masterful. And the thing that I loved about him is George produced a lot of people. And all of them sounded like themselves. All of them, he didn't put his sound on them. He was all about helping you to develop what it is that you're hearing. He was masterful at that.
When we were producing our music, George's music is, it's always one of the references out there, for us. So it's just amazing. And that version of Misty that you guys did was just out of this world, I have to say.
Yeah.
You started off with a little bit of a hint of Sarah Vaughan, but then you moved on to something else. And then I never really could, imagine Misty play in a gospel way, but George was doing that, and you guys were enjoying yourself so much. And I realized that in your music, you always have a little bit of gospel, a tinge of gospel in it too. I was wondering because I read that you actually grew up in a Catholic family. So where
I went to Catholic school. We were but my family were African Methodist Episcopal, and the church down the street was a Kojic church, and the people next door were Baptists. So it was all one thing.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
非常之精彩嘅，好多古仔聽，我仲好中意聽呢啲古仔。佢話佢細個嘅時候咧係一個 multi-generational 嘅 household 長大，所以而佢哋唔同嘅 generation、唔同嘅年代嘅人咧，都係同 music 有關嘅嚇，即係就算佢話唔係 musician 啦，都係唱啊玩一啲好好聽嘅 music， 所以佢喺嗰度咧學咗好多嘢咁啊，所以 George Duke 亦都係其中一位啦。咁啊 Charles Burrell 又係其中一位啦，而我亦都有問佢啦。我知道咧，原來佢係曾經跟過一啲嘅 classical 嘅老師啊 ，vocal coach 嚟到去學嘢嘅喎。咁佢亦都講咗Joan Lader 啦，係佢嘅一個好少喺 publicly 唔知有冇添喎，因為我特登 Google 過咧 AI 都揾唔出嚇。咁可能係新嘅 information 嚟嘅，對大家嚟講佢。對佢嚟講非常之重要啦，令到佢揾到佢自己嘅聲音嘅一位恩師嚟嘅所以佢就話喺 classical 裏邊咧嗰個 training 啦，裏邊令到佢更加認識佢自己把聲嗰個特色嗰個 feature 咁之後 Dianne 亦都有講到一啲佢對於佢嚟講好重要嘅一啲嘅影響啊，包括譬如話 Miles Davis 啊等等即係佢哋尤其是佢哋點樣用空間啊，嗰個空間感嚟到去 convey 佢哋嘅 emotion 呢一啲咁即係聽佢講嘢，我自己其實亦都學咗好多嘢即係講起呢啲唔同嘅人對佢嘅影響咧，最後我就話喂，講起 space 講起空間感咧，以下落嚟呢隻歌咧，我就好想分享，因為我覺得佢同佢嘅 cousin George Duke 咧，真係用好多嘅空間嚟到去創造一啲嘅即係好嗰個 expression 嗰個故事性好有而呢一隻歌其實大家都聽好多次㗎啦，非常之出名嘅Misty， 但係佢哋玩嘅呢個版本冇得頂一個人聲一個琴聲。 彈出無限嘅可能性，即係而我亦都有問佢嘅，即係話哇 George Duke 都好彈好多 gospel 嘅嘢落去喎，完全估唔到原來 Misty 嘅呢一隻歌都可以玩到咁 gospel 喎，咁所以咧以下落嚟事不宜遲，我哋一定要聽下呢一個版本嘅拉闊版本嘅，佢哋兩個玩到非常之 enjoy 嘅版本嘅Dianne Reeves 同埋 George Duke 嘅 Misty。Well,
recently I had the honor of recording a record that was a dream. There are 3 records that I've always wanted to record it, and I recorded 2 of them. I have 1 more to go. Now, this last one was dedicated to a great, great artist who, in the very beginning of my career, before I even knew I had a career, when I decided to sing, I heard records of hers that were just so incredible. And through her artistry, she showed me what the human voice was capable of. She really, really addressed music in a divinely unique way. And I'm speaking of Miss Sarah Vaughan. So while this isn't on the record, it's still something that I like to do. And with my cousin here, Mr. George, Big Daddy. Look at me. I'm as helpless as a kitten up a tree, and I feel like I'm clinging to a cloud. I can't understand. I get misty just holding your hand. Walk my way, and 1,000 violins begin to play, or it could be the sound of your hello, that music I hear. I get misty whenever you're near. You can say that you're leading me on, but it's just what I want you to do. Don't you notice how hopelessly I'm lost? That's why I'm following you. On my own. Could I wander through this wonderland alone, never knowing my right foot from my left, my hat from my glove? I'm too misty and too much in love.
Dianne Reeves and George Duke. There's obviously a lot of chemistry between you two.
哇，係咪非常之精彩啦 ？Dianne Reeves 同埋 George Duke 呢一隻係 Misty。咁啊，去到最後一 part 嘅 interview 咧，咁我哋都傾咗唔少嘢，其實都咁啊，我又問佢關於一個我自己非常之想知道嘅一個趣事咧，就係1990年嘅時候咧，有一隻叫做 Yo Strutting 嘅 Blue Note Christmas 嘅大碟裏邊咧，就有一隻歌咧就係 Dianne Reeves 唱嘅，而作曲嘅咧係 Thelonious Monk 喎，而佢亦都自己咧幫呢隻歌寫咗個 verse 喎啊，咁啊佢就話俾我聽，其實呢隻歌係點嚟嘅嚇，原來係一出 Dianne Reeves 嘅電影裏邊嘅配樂嚟嘅喎嚇，咁我亦都有問佢，我話喂，其實呢一隻歌咧係冇寫究竟邊一個作詞嘅，除咗佢自己加咗一段頭一段嘅 verse 之外，之後究竟邊個作嘅咧？嗰啲詞最主要嗰啲詞係邊個作？原來係 Thelonious Monk 自己作嘅喎！哇，呢個真係好少人知道啊，所以我特登要問佢，同埋我覺得呢隻歌非常之好聽，而我喺呢個節目爵士鍾情啦嘅 Christmas 成日都會播嘅一隻鮮為人知，亦都出邊唔會聽到聖誕節會播嘅一隻歌，所以咧 今年嘅聖誕節咧，我都係必定會播一次俾大家聽㗎啦。今集咧嘅爵士鍾情咧就唔會播住，因為未到聖誕節。咁啊，亦都喺度咧，佢亦都岔開咗話題，就話佢有一隻歌咧，佢好想，因為我頭先同我哋傾嘅時候咧，佢就諗起一隻歌，好想喺度播，咁一定會播㗎啦。所以咧，去到最後嘅時候咧，我就會播出Dianne Reeves 嘅點名嘅歌曲，就係 Someday。Al Jarreau 同埋 Dianne Reeves 去Remember George Duke 嘅一隻歌曲啦。咁啊，最後嘅一段咧，我哋就傾得好開心啦。咁亦都講到一個比較哲學啲嘅問題，就係話其實佢已經 achieve 咗咁多嘢，究竟佢仲想喺音樂裏邊想做一啲乜嘢咧？佢俾我嘅答案咧好簡單，佢話其實我係好開放。咁啊，用呢一個 note 咧嚟到結束今集嘅呢一個爵士鍾情嘅特輯Dianne Reeves 嘅 special， 亦都係 interview with the one and only Dianne Reeves。今日咧非常之榮幸可以請到佢上嚟同我傾偈。咁啊，最後一段嘅對話啦，聽完之後我哋會聽到 Al Jarreau 同埋 Dianne Reeves 嘅合唱，去紀念 George Duke 嘅呢一隻歌曲 Someday。多謝大家收聽，記住去買飛支持呢一次嘅即係難能可貴嘅演出喺度啦，再次咧同大家分享下呢一個 detail 先。11月10號2025年啦，當然係星期一嘅8點鐘喺西九文化區嘅戲曲中心上演 Dianne Reeves 嘅呢一場非常之精彩嘅爵士音樂嘅演出，帶嚟嘅 band 非常之精彩 ，John Beasley on piano, Homero Lubambo on guitar, Ruben Rogers on bass 同埋 Terrion Gully on drums。約定大家到時見啊！事不宜遲，我哋聽下最後一節嘅同 Dianne Reeves 嘅對話。
And here's another thing that I want to talk to you about. This is really for my own personal craving because on during every single Christmas, of course I would put on your album. It's Christmas time again. It's Christmas time is here.
Yeah.
And then there's also another very obscure one that is always on my playlist, but I would really want to talk to you about this one. It's in a Blue Note Christmas compilation album called Yoshi. And
I know what you're going to say.
You know that one, right? And it's
12 Days of Christmas.
So obscure and Merrier Christmas, written, composed by, the master of space. You were just talking about space, Thelonious Monk. And I was like,
yes.
What is this? And then I listened to it. I loved it. And
you know where that came from? Oddly enough, it was Keanu Reeves, the actor, was doing Keanu Reeves did a movie about Jack Kerouac.
Huh.
And that was one of the songs from the film that I did for the film.
Wow.
Even crazier, right?
Yeah.
But I want to go back to, I know we were talking about the Christmas thing, but I just want to say this.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, just in case you want to play it, one of my favorite pieces is the song Someday. And George, of course, you can play his version because I love the way he sang it. But me and Al Jarreau, in tribute to George, did a duet of that together. So, yeah, I didn't want to forget that. Yeah.
We'll definitely play it in tribute.
But going back to the Christmas record, yes. Now it is Christmas time, hear the bells ring, pretty song, ding, 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 dong, and nobody ever plays that, but it's definitely a Thelonious Monk tune.
I play that almost every single Christmas.
Wow, good for you.
Because I'm a fan of jazz. I'm a fan of Thelonious Monk. I'm a fan of Dianne Reeves. Yeah. All of these coming all together, and I have to ask you, because I could not figure it out from the booklet that I'm holding right here. Who wrote the lyrics?
He did.
He did. My God.
Yes. He wrote this, and I think he did it for his children because he was traveling a lot and he wanted them to have something. And yeah, he wrote them.
And then there's this little footnote, because I love reading credits, that says you also wrote a verse to this tune.
Did I?
You remember that?
I don't. I have to go back and listen. I don't remember doing.
Yeah, the version performed by Dianne Reeves.
Oh, the verse. Yes. Yeah, I did.
Lyrics preceded by a verse added by Miss Reeves.
Yes, and that was because of the film. Yes, I did. Yeah, now I know what you're talking about. Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you actually co-wrote a song.
Well, kind of. You can say I co-wrote it, or it's a medley.
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah,
that's just amazing.
Some commentary. Yeah, that's right.
I was wondering, my whole life about this one. So
yeah,
thank you. This is just great. In wrapping up, I would just like to ask you just a couple of questions. You have achieved so much in your life, in your musical career. Do you think about what else you want to achieve in your music anymore? Or, how does it feel nowadays when you are performing or recording a tune, doing music? What goes on in your head?
Roger, I have to say, that in the very beginning there were, and I've said this many times, there were things that I dreamed that some of the dreams came true and some didn't. And there were things that I didn't even know could be possible that came into my life that, like I would never have dreamed them, and they were incredible experiences. So where I am in my life now, and this year, on October 23rd, I will be 69. And, I'm just open because so many things come and I'm just like, the most important thing is to be prepared.
Right.
And I find myself in these very interesting and wonderful places, and it's exciting. So I'm just open now.
Right. And have you always wanted to be a musician, a singer, when you were growing up? Or this is something that it is all because of Clark who discovered you?
Well, actually, when I was in junior high school, I started off playing piano, and then my junior high school teacher had this choir, and I was in it, and we were doing, music of the times that we were in. And I don't know if you know the album by Edwin Hawkins it was a very famous gospel album that became a pop album, which was called Oh Happy Day. And on that album, there were really cool songs and new ways of harmonizing. And it was just it was a evolution of gospel music. It was really wonderful. And there was this one song on the record, it's like behind every Joy is the name of the song. It's called Joy. And when you're going through junior high school, I don't know about there, but here it's like, oh God, hormones, angst, everything. You just don't even know who you are, And so I sang this song. It was my first experience on stage singing, and the connection that I felt with the audience, and like it was something I had never experienced before. And I knew right then, I want to do this. This feels too amazing. This authority and this, this exchange. It's just, I want to do this. So I made my mind up at 12. So I knew at 12 that singing was what I wanted to do.
Wow. And you're still doing it after
all these years.
To talk about that album, there is a little funny story I just want to tell you. I was recording 2014 in LA with Andre Crouch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we talked about that album, Edwin Hawkins, and I joked that. Did you notice that this gospel album, Christian gospel album, was actually released by the Buddha Records?
Yes, right. That's right.
Backed up.
Yes, that's right. Hey, all for the betterment of the people.
Yeah, and my last question is, do you know what you're gonna be doing in Hong Kong? What kind of repertoire are you bringing over here?
Oh, yeah. But it's hard, like I don't want to say, because I have but we got lots of new music and it's just fun. This band is so extraordinary. It's
surprise us.
and there are a lot of different configurations within the band that we do too. I might do something with my bass player, definitely something with my guitarist or my pianist. There's just a lot of things, so there's a lot of texture, I will say.
A lot of texture.
And it's exciting. Yeah.
That is all the teaser we need over here. Thank you very much for coming on to my show, and lovely to chat with you, and really looking forward to you being here in Hong Kong and share the moments and the connections with the Hong Kong audience.
All right. I look forward to it too. You take care.
Of love to give. Love's not so easy. Love can sometimes be just like a cross to bear. Some days it's alright, sometimes it's so hard to bear, but I still love you. Oh, someday you'll see my point of view. But I know my mind's not hazy, knowing how I feel. I know how you feel. Oh, you don't want me now. I know someday you'll take a look around, see where you've been, looking deep within. You find you care for me. Oh, then both our lives will start anew. You find you care for me, you care for me. Then both our lives will start anew. of you, thinking about your point of view. Then our love can start anew.